Hello, I'm Ryan Johnson, and I lead executive and professional education at the School of Sustainability at Arizona State University in the College of Global Futures. I'm joined today by two special guests for a brief conversation about climate conscious leadership, and specifically climate conscious leadership for business people. So I want to introduce Professor George Basile, who's a professor in the ASU School of Sustainability. He's spent a lot of his career reframing sustainability challenges as business opportunities. So he sees challenges through an opportunity lens, a little bit different. He's been working with Fortune 500 companies in sustainability and resilience for more than 2 decades. The other guest today is Hylke Faber, who's an experienced coach and a facilitator. He's the leader of the Growth Leaders Network and Constancee. He's also the author of the award-winning Taming the Crocodiles books series. And in his work, he helps leaders and teams become more conscious of their underlying mental models. We're fortunate to have him joining us at Arizona State because he spent some time in executive education, teaching executive education at the Columbia Business School. So, Hylke, let me start with you. How does this film, this phenomenon of a film, Don't Look Up, relate to climate consciousness by business people and leaders? What do you think? How does that film relate to what we're talking about today with climate?
Well, thank you, Ryan. And I was so grateful that that movie came out. I watched it, and of course, I love Meryl Streep, but that's besides the point. To see a movie so clearly articulate one of the core challenges of our time, basically the livability of our climate and the natural human reaction to it, which is denial and trying to hold on to the status quo. And that, to me, in a nutshell, is where we, and I'm seeing we as people in business, seem to often go. We are very, very focused on what we need to do today, the next quarter, our goals and our projects, and we're very good at achieving them. Yes, and we have learned that over the years to do that really well. At the same time, we have this comet in our head that we know about. We know about climate change. We don't deny it anymore. Yet we are very much in this frame of mind that there's pretty much not that much, or maybe even nothing I can do, at least when we rely on the old tapes of our thinking. So herein comes the climate conscious leader. Climate conscious leader is a little bit like Churchill, who was not taking part in the movie Don't Look Up. But I was thinking about, how would Churchill have operated differently with the comet coming towards him in 1940, when my part of the world, Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg was invaded by the Nazis, and Britain was going to be next after France fell. Churchill was basically letting go of some tapes of the past, that there was nothing they could do, and that they pretty much had to find a deal, make a deal. Just as like what we're seeing in this movie, right? We're trying to make a deal with the comet. We're trying to make a deal outside this movie with climate change, first by denying it. But a climate conscious leader says, that may have been my old way of thinking, but what is it that I can do from my privileged position, powerful position in business, to help address this challenge that is facing us as humanity? We are in a place of, you could say, severe challenge, and we know it, and we can learn to move past denial in owning it and becoming curious about it and finding, just like people like Churchill did, unlike the people in the movie, away from not looking up to actually looking in to find more possibilities.
George, you're a biophysicist by training. What are some of the lessons that you take from the movie?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, what Hylke just said at the very end there about looking in as a way to look up, which is a little bit maybe not, physicists or the poets of science having to come up with things like charms and quarks and all these weird things. So there's a little bit of poetry in biophysics and bringing that to sort of the planet. And I think that what we saw in the film that was so central. And for me, as you said, Ryan, being a practitioner for a couple of decades, there was actually some pain in that movie. Right? There was a lot of moments in that movie where I was smiling at the jokes, but also feeling the reality of having been in many of those situations myself, in rooms where making a big change around climate or other sustainability issues may make sense to the chief operating officer because a business is running into real problems around the things that are happening, the biophysical things that are happening to the planet, bigger storms, tides rising, et cetera, droughts, right? Things that really impact the supply chain, for example. And then maybe somebody else, like the CFO, asking, well, show me the money, right? And those two things don't come together. So where climate is often put on the back burner in the field of, say, biophysics and sustainability, where you can do the math and we can see what's happening with the climate, and we can tell you another story based on fact, and we can beat it into your head that it should be this and that. The reality is this all goes through human perception, though. Climate is a thing we understand. Climate change is a concept that we create, right? So the biophysics is going to happen without us, but what we do, the decisions we make, and to me, that was the core of the movie. The core of the movie isn't, are you going to keep the comet from coming? Are you going to solve the problem? The core of the movie is, can you change your perception so that you can make better decisions, so that in your everyday life or your everyday business or as a leader of the free world or whatever you want, can you make better decisions that chart us in a direction towards sustainability, towards climate leadership? So for me, even as a biophysicist, even understanding the big system, at the end of the day, this is a human challenge and a human opportunity, and therefore we need to understand how human consciousness, human thinking, human perception, human ideas, and at the end of the day, our decisions can be something that we leverage to empower what we do, as Hylke said.
So George, just staying with the movie theme for one more question here. Is it possible for climate conscious leaders in business to really stop the comet, to use that analogy?
Yeah, so I mean, so there's an almost flippant answer that you might find from the movie, which is yes. Right after you watch the movie, maybe you think no. But the reality is the primary drivers of the change in our climate is us. It's not a comet. It's not a comet sent in from outer space that we have to come up with new technologies to figure out how to divert it if we don't. That's not climate change. Climate change is a systematic and systemic set of activities that we humans undertake through our everyday decisions, rolling up into our big global businesses and our governments and the activities we take that impact the very air that we breathe, the very temperature of the planet that we live on. So the short answer is we're massively empowered to address climate change because we are the agents of climate change. So the question isn't can we, the answer, and even on top of that, we've done the math, we have yes. So yeah, yes, it's a yes. The real question is, how do each of us overcome this sort of cognitive dissonance we find ourselves in, where we understand these things are going on, and yet we're living in the world that we now actively know is also negatively impacting climate. And so, okay, what do you do? And that's what climate conscious leadership is about. It's about getting alignment between the opportunity to change and making better decisions that utilize your resources better. So yeah, the short answer is, yes, we can.
Let me turn to you, Hylke. What this program, Climate Conscious Leadership, it's aimed at mid-career professionals, but what's the genesis of this idea? It was really part of your brainchild, wasn't it, Hylke? Talk to us about why you chose to launch this idea.
So I grew up in business. And so what I noticed is that what business is really good at is when you have a goal, you'll meet it. And how you meet it is, like George was saying, through empowering yourself in making different choices. finding more creative ways, finding more collaborative ways, finding more inspired ways, finding more innovative ways to address a challenge. So business is really good at that, right? And what I noticed business is not being very good at is addressing things that are outside of the immediate goals. So I'm almost 50, actually turning 50 pretty soon. And I'm thinking, I have been working on consciousness in businesses for a long time. I was a monk at some point. And I thought, no, in the past, it was like, how can I help leaders bring more wisdom and compassion to what they do, which then results in them having better goal attainment, better relationships with their colleagues, more fulfillment, less stress, more fulfilling lives, more freedom. And with the environment that I live in, where I see the climate doing its very apparent thing, it became untenable for me to do nothing. And it became exciting to me to do something, which was, what would it be like if we brought the disciplines of environmental study, ecology, climate change together with the studies of consciousness and bring it together so we can together go into a different conversation? Because what I've noticed is when people start to think differently, like George was saying, when we look in, the thing that we look out on looks different, and we start to see many different possibilities. So this course was, inspired by this knowing that when we humans are capable of a lot more than our instant brain might give us credit for, we're able to do a lot more. So this course is about helping each of us, including myself, to expand on the inside so that we together can address what's happening on the outside. To me, this course is about empowerment of more possibilities, of greater thinking, and also, you could say, helping people in a peer setting, in a community setting, encourage each other. Because of course, we can get discouraged. It's very easy to get discouraged. Very easy to do. We're busy. We hear the news. There's a lot going on. How do you not get discouraged some days, right? And I think my sense was that when we bring people together who are intentional about doing something about climate change, things will happen from that community of connectedness and possibilities that one person by themselves in one discipline cannot do.
And George, obviously a unique combination between you, a biophysicist, PhD, hard science, and Hylke, who comes at it, as he said, at one point he was going to be a monk. He's very cerebral, into consciousness, et cetera. Talk about what people might come away with this program with, given you're two incredibly unique individuals leading it.
Well, I think that you've sort of outlined the combination there that is, is the opportunity on the table. So there is a lot of science here, everybody. There is a lot of biophysics. So biophysics is the combination of biology and physics. Physics is a study of how the natural world works. Biology is the study of how the living world works. And it does give us understanding of how ecosystems work, how the climate works. These are things that we will continue to understand it all, but they aren't completely mysterious. Now, one of the challenges with that coming out of the science community, and you hear it out of the climate community all the time, is a roster of facts, a list, a litany of things you're supposed to absorb and understand, and in absorbing and understand them, they're supposed to lead you to action. But when those facts amount to telling you that the climate, which you don't really sense per se in a way beyond sort of the weather, that this global climate is changing and it's going to be disastrous in years that are, a lot longer than you might plan on, 20 years or 50 years or 10 years. When you're thinking about what you're going to have for lunch, the facts don't add up to a positive story. And this is where the consciousness part comes in. We are creatures of story, the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives we tell ourselves, the story, that's our power. We're able to tell stories that allow us to project our actions into the future, even beyond our death. We plan for things to have legacy. The business leaders that I've worked with, they want what their businesses do to outlast them. Other creatures don't do that. So we have this incredible, powerful combination of science-based knowledge, which can provide us a baseline, a foundation, groundwork for being predictable, understanding what's going on around us, giving us pathways forward. It can also give us insights into ourselves and our consciousness. There's also an entire other field of cognition and psychology and whatnot. All of these things that let us understand, storytelling and narratives. And here's the fun thing about it. The fun thing is you don't have to be a scientist or a psychologist. You're already an expert in these things. You're already a member of, you live on the planet. You're biologically engaged with the planet, and you're already an incredible storyteller. So part of what you get out of this course is that understanding. But the other big part you get out of this is an understanding of yourself and pathways to tell more realistic and more empowering narratives that can let you be wherever you're at, and still provide pathways forward, whether they're immediate or aspirational. So I'd say what you really get out of this, hopefully, is knowledge, empowerment, and some momentum to be able to utilize whatever you bring to the table with everybody else, and take some really active steps.
Terrific. So obviously this is not a gloom and doom. I mean, climate is a very serious topic, but Hylke, what do you hope people come away with this program, knowing, being able to do? Obviously, as we've said, a very unique combination of you and Professor George here. What do you predict as the outcome for the business leaders and organizational leaders? Really, it's not limited to business leaders who may join this program.
For me, it's a very strong sense of being willing, daring to look the truth of where we are squarely in the face, just looking it right in the face, and the whole complexity of it. And then in that complexity, find the strength and the heart to stay in it, to discover new possibilities, to inspire yourself to act differently, and to inspire people around you to act differently, so that the billions of us who are in the current generation passing through this planet are actually doing something, to use George's words, to actually work with this thing and see it as an opportunity. So my higher intention is that this course is one stimulus, one catalyst that will create a movement of all 8 billion of us, or 9 billion of us, and as we keep growing, 10 billion of us, that say, yeah, like working on climate is something that we do each in our own way. That is my inspiration. Now, we're not going to be 9 billion people in this course. We're going to be a handful, right? And Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of committed individuals can make change happen. In fact, it's the only way it ever happens. That is my intention, and to have lots of fun in the process.
I want to thank our guest today, Hylke Faber, who's the author of the award-winning Taming Your Crocodiles books, and Professor George Basile of ASU School of Sustainability. We've been talking about climate-conscious leaders and climate-conscious leadership, and you have a unique opportunity coming up in the very near future to enroll in a short course. It's a certificate course through Arizona State University to learn from the wisdom of these two gentlemen and from your peers in the course. So with that, I want to thank you both, and we will see you soon.